Another day of rallies following the death of 19-year-old Tony Robinson. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric Franke. Michelle will join us. She's been at one of those rallies this afternoon. Team coverage tonight. Michelle at a pro-police rally on the Capitol Square. Danica Lewis at the governor's residence, where a separate rally has been moving through the east side of Madison. And Jessica Arb talked with community leader Michael Johnson, who sat down with Governor Walker earlier today. But first, we begin with Michelle near the Law Enforcement Memorial on the Capitol Square. Michelle?
All right, Eric, this is a big day of protests for the city of Madison. An emerging voice is now showing support for the police force. Of course, we are live at the Capitol, where in the last couple of hours, hundreds of people crowded the streets here to show their support for law enforcement. Since then, that crowd has thinned out quite a bit, but it's been an interesting last 15 or 20 minutes or so. We've had protesters of this rally as well, and Matthew Simon is here to kind of pick up this part of the story for us. Matthew, we know that there was a growing voice on social media, but really today was the first time we've seen an organized effort like this.
You saw a large group here, and it really grew right about 5 o'clock. We saw protesters. Protesters is a strong word. We saw people supporting the Madison Police Department. The organizers say that supporting the police department, the primary purpose to educate folks. And it was really just about a 5-minute speech here that we saw out to people. And then they stood out here for about an hour. These are folks from the police background, but also we talked to a high school student who just came out here. A lot of folks with law enforcement backgrounds coming from many areas of the state to support this effort. And so we saw them. We saw a woman, though. It got very heated here for a second. In the last 20 minutes or so, this woman came out and started screaming Tony Robinson's name, was joined by a few others, Michelle. And at that point, we saw the officers and their supporters actually turn their backs on this woman. So this was about a community conversation of listening, and that is what we appeared to see today. She said her piece, they turned their backs, and it is a conversation that continues.
Were you able to follow up with the people who were protesting this stand-in?
It was really this one woman, and we saw a few people, a few kids, they appeared to be from high school maybe, that appeared to want to join in until they heard what she was saying. When you heard their conversations, they said, well, she really doesn't speak for all of us. But her point was her heart is hurt right now, and she wanted these officers to hear that. All
right, Matthew Simon, we look forward to hearing more from you tonight at 10 as well. In the meantime, hundreds have been on the move from East Washington to the governor's mansion today, and that is where we join Danica Lewis.
Michelle, that's absolutely right. You can hear the noise now. This is what it's been like for the past couple of hours, going all the way from Worthington Park, stopping at the Department of Corrections, down East Washington, ending up here at the governor's mansion. I can tell you what's behind you right now, what's behind the camera, is Sherman Avenue just packed full of people right now. A lot of them youth that did, as Matthew mentioned, are coming out en masse to really support this cause, specifically in response to Tony Robinson's death. We want to give you a quick look here at East Washington a little bit earlier today. Again, another road completely filled with protesters. These protesters, once again, went from Worthington Park to the Department of Corrections. At the Department of Corrections, explain why they don't believe the incarceration rate is where it should be at. They then stopped at a fast food restaurant where they described the living wage situation and how that affects racial disparities here in the state. And then they came down here to the governor's mansion, telling the governor to come out of his house and deal with his budget and the ways that that is impacting the situation. Again, a lot of youth out today, but we did hear from a couple parents. Listen to this.
It's partially for just a sense of justice, but also because my son is black. I'm a white guy, but my son is a 10-year-old black kid. And as he gets older, I'm worried for him. Growing up in an environment where very often kids his age are not trusted or because of the color of his skin.
My son was never a violent man, and I don't want violence done in his name. I don't want anger. I want to be able to make a change. I don't want my son to have died in vain.
What you just heard from there, who you just heard from, rather, was Tony Robinson's mother. His family has been along this walk the entire way. A very important voice, as you can imagine, for the protesters here. And the first time we have heard from the mother today. She really appreciated and was full of gratitude for the protesters that have come out in support of her son, specifically in a nonviolent peaceful way. We are here at the governor's mansion again, where protesters will stay until their message is heard. But for now, we're going to send it back to Michelle over at the Capitol. Michelle.
Of course, Danica Lewis reporting live for us tonight from the governor's mansion. Danica, thank you. In the meantime, we will have complete coverage and a complete wrap of today's rallies on channel3000.com and on News 3 at 10. In the meantime, Eric, back to you.